G'day guys, I'm James Duckworth and today I'm going to be showing you how to do the valve clearances on a YZ250F. First, you'll need to remove the bolt on the back of the seat. This is a 10mm socket, there's one on either side. Once you have that removed, remove the seat by sliding it backwards and lifting off. Next, remove the bolts mounting the tank. These are located on either side just behind the radiator. You can access them through the vents using a 10mm on an extension. Switch your petcock to off and gently remove your fuel hose. Gently lift off the rubber tag holding onto the tank and simply lift it off. Next, you'll want to remove your valve cover. This is held on by two Allen bolts. Loosen your hose clamps by pinching them and lifting upward, then using a screwdriver, gently pry the hose off the mounting. They should come off pretty easily. Finally, remove the ignition lead and then simply lift the valve cover off. It may be a bit tricky, so a bit of force may be needed. Okay, so here's where we start measuring. You'll need these. These are called feeler gauges. You can get them at any automotive store. They're not hard to find. However, these ones, you can see they're a bit thick. The YZ, they need a bit of a thinner blade, so I went out and got these ones. So you see how they're a bit sort of tapered towards the end? So not these, you need these ones. To measure the valve clearance, insert the feeler gauge between the cam lobe and the valve bucket. It should just make contact between each of them while still sliding freely. If the gauge does not fit, find a smaller size gauge and measure from there. On this vehicle, the measurement on the intake is 0.1 to 0.15. After recording your measurements, we have to rotate the carby in order to access the cam chain tensioner. To do this, we have to remove the throttle cables. Next up, we have to loosen the carb boots on either side of the carby. These are held on with a Phillips head and a small Allen key. Now with access to the cam chain tensioner, use an 8mm socket to remove the bolts. Remove them equally and you can use your fingers by the end of it. Use an 8mm socket to loosen the cam tower. With all bolts loose, insert a screwdriver and gently pry it upwards. Then simply remove the cam. In my case, I already have the cam chain removed. Using a magnetic tool, remove the valve buckets. Be careful because the shim may or may not come with it. Okay, so now we've got the shims out, we use this tool called a micrometer. We use this to measure the thickness of them. Now, with my ones, I'm lucky enough that the lettering is still on it, but if it isn't, get your micrometer, open it up, make sure it's in there, and then that'll measure it up. This measures it in a 1.7, and that's exactly what it says on the lettering. Do that for all of them and measure from there. It's a good idea to make a chart like this. As you can see, all my shims are 1.7. My top shim is in spec at 1.2. My middle has 0 clearance and my bottom one is just outside of clearance at 0.9. With your shims removed, this is what the buckets will look like. Reinstall your correctly sized shims. These need to sit flush in those little buckets. With your shims installed, gently install the buckets on top. These shouldn't require any force to install, so be careful. With your buckets reinstalled, put your cam back on and torque the bolts up to spec. In this case, about 8 Newton meters. Be careful not to over tighten these, as it will reduce movement in your cam. You'll want to tighten the bolts in a star pattern in order to give equal pressure as you're installing it. With everything reinstalled, remeasure your clearances. If you've done your calculations correctly, everything should now be in spec. There you go. That's how to do the valve clearances on a YZ250F. It's not that hard and can save you a lot of money. Do yourself a favour, have a go yourself, and just learn by doing. Stay upright, people.